First up, some oil marketing companies have begun reducing fuel prices at the pumps effective today. This follows industry projections of more than 3% drop in petroleum product prices in the current pricing window. Here's more in this report.
GOIL, the second largest player in Ghana's downstream oil sector, reduced fuel prices at its service stations effective 6 a.m. Petrol has dropped from 10 cedis 99 pesos to 9 cedis 99 pesos a litre, whilst diesel has also reduced from 11 cedis 96 pesos to 12 cedis 21 pesos a litre. The company says the reductions are part of efforts to provide added value to customers through discounted prices at 150 selected service stations nationwide. Regular pump prices, however, will continue to apply at other GOIL outlets. GOIL notes that the move aligns with its role as a national energy company supporting socio-economic recovery. Market leader Star Oil also announced price cuts effective 8 a.m., with petrol selling at 9 cedis 97 pesos a litre and diesel 10 cedis 97 pesos a litre. Star Oil says the reductions are part of its ongoing discount strategy, welcoming the competition as healthy for the industry. Industry sources say several other oil marketing companies are expected to adjust prices today. Analysts note that GOIL appears to be adopting a pricing strategy similar to Star Oil's, which has contributed to strong growth for the market leader and renewed calls for the removal of the MPA's price floor model. According to the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, the more than 3% reduction in fuel prices is driven by falling prices of finished petroleum products and the appreciation of the Ghana cedi against the US dollar. This marks the second decline in fuel prices this month, supported by global oversupply and improved foreign exchange conditions.
Well, joining me on phone is Derek Emmanuel Hache, who is Senior Research and Policy Analyst at the Institute for Energy Security. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do these fuel price cuts fully reflect the current market conditions, or could prices drop even further?
Good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity. So as you rightly stated, more or less this is the right time for Ghanaians to enjoy and businesses to also be happy. Because for competitive level, prices are now below even $1, or let me say 10 Ghana cedis. As you rightly stated, it reflects what is happening, because if you look at the factors that normally affect fuel price, two major factors are coming to play right now, and any of the two of them are different degrees. The first one is on the international market. On the international market, prices have seen a reduction, so you see that petrol is coming down between 1 to 0%. Diesel is on the low below 1%. LPG was quite significant on the international market. It fell by 0.4%. Now the second factor is the exchange rate. You all very see that for the past price, especially from December to now, the cedi has appreciated for a significant amount of money, and that appreciation is what has accounted for this reduction that we are seeing. So these two factors, that any of them that go into the right direction in terms of appreciation and then of a reduction of prices in the market, it leads to a reduction of prices at the various, and that is what we are currently experiencing. The variation got to do with the business strategy of each of the oil marketing companies. And so if you have a business which is more competitive and then has a competitive strategy, then it means that prices even below or even go further than what we are even experiencing now. But as you rightly stated, the regulation by MPA for price floors is what has made it such that some of them will not go below what we are even experiencing as it stands right now.
All right, I want to pick on two things you talked about. First, the business strategy. So we've seen price reductions by GOIL and Star Oil, suggesting growing competition among OMCs. Do you see this competition as healthy and sustainable for the industry and for consumers?
All right, so for consumers, if prices come down, then that is good news, because at any time, what we are expecting is to get affordable, cheap, affordable food or quality. That is what consumers are expecting. So if prices go down, to even 5 Ghana cedis or 8 Ghana cedis today, consumers will be happy with it. But you are talking about sustainability. And so we have over 150 oil marketing companies. How many of them have this competitive advantage? For example, Star Oil may have the market. They might be the market leaders because maybe they have cost reduction strategies across the value chain. But assuming you have another oil marketing company that do not have that competitive advantage in terms of the value chain, where they have to even import the petroleum products from a different source, and then their cargoes, and then a whole lot of things come into play. The things that add up to the price going up, they are not stable across the various oil marketing companies. But for Star Oil, for Goil, it is a healthy competition for them because, one, it will come out that they are trying to get the best for consumers. So that competitive pricing can force the prices to come down. But I'm sure the MP also brought about the price floors, at least to protect the several oil marketing companies that are in the value chain, so that you don't have local companies trying to fold out because they are not able to have that competitive advantage as compared to the big players in the industry.
What is your position on calls to abolish the National Petroleum Authority's price floor model, and how would this impact consumers?
All right. So for me, at the current level, I would expect to see a maintenance of that for the meantime, to be able to see how that drives maybe within the next 4 to 5 months. Because when you look at it, the price floors came to serve a purpose. The purpose was to protect businesses that were folding up, who could not meet the continuous rise in demand, rise in cost, and then they were folding out. Now, if these oil marketing companies also fold out, you should know that it's not only Star Oil and then Goil that controls the market. There are other significant players there. And so if these oil marketing companies decide to fold out, then how will the rest also get access to fuel? And so to a larger extent, it's supposed to protect the investment and also guarantee that fuel is always supplied, so it's able to meet the demand. There is a shortage where people have to queue, and then be like, one part of the country do not have access to fuel and coal. No. And so to a larger extent, it serves the purpose. But we can study for the next maybe quarter or the first quarter of 2026 to see whether there's even a need for us to bring, even if it is the price floor, a reduction of that price floor, so that other consumers will be more better off.
So with the cedi appreciating and petroleum prices easing globally, what additional relief can consumers realistically expect in the near term?
For the meantime, these are the two major factors that are accounting for it. What we need to expect is that going forward, we've now seen that the Temawa refinery has now been brought on board for full operation. And so now that prices are going down in the international market, then we should be able to now refine our own petroleum products in Ghana. The more we're able to refine our own petroleum products, then one, it eases the pressure on the dollar, and that more or less also leads to the appreciation of the cedi. And so people can easily get refined petroleum products at the various pumps, or let me say, to the various channels from Temawa refinery. That reduces significantly their burden. And so if you're able to do that for this short term, then it means that prices can even go further low. And then the activities of BOS have also been more efficient now. BOS is doing quite well. And so they can also now be able to expand their tank farms to be able to have more storage. So that now that prices are quite low, below 10 Ghana cedis at the various pumps, we could also save some by storing some of the petroleum products that could be used within the next 120 days.
All right. Emmanuel Hatches, Senior Research and Policy Analyst with the Institute for Energy Security. Thank you so much for your time on the marketplace. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says it stands by its assessment that the Bank of Ghana could record a loss exceeding $200 million in 2025 due to its exposure to gold board under the Domestic Gold Purchase Program. This follows the central bank's earlier description of the IMF's assessment as speculative. Now, speaking on PM Express Business Edition, IMF country representative Dr. Adrian Alter emphasized that the warning was not intended to demonize the program, but rather to highlight the potential risks to the Bank of Ghana.
The assessment done on the exposure in the report basically just tries to bring more transparency to the program and at the same time help improve risk management surrounding the program. Now, I would say a key clarification for what has been mentioned in the report is that gold board related activities are quasi-fiscal in nature. Therefore, any loss associated with these activities should not be on the BOG balance sheet, but rather should be brought on balance, on the budget, on the fiscal side. And let me explain why. Because any losses or any issues related to the program will eventually lead to a weaker BOG balance sheet that could risk the implementation of their core mandate, which is the price stability. So it can impair their ability and credibility, and eventually can fade central bank independence. So this was one point that I wanted to make and basically give you a balanced view of what has been said in the report. So in a nutshell, the DGPP program has brought lots of benefits, and those are acknowledged. And at the same time, there are risks associated, and with better management, better governance, and sustainability, the program can bring even more benefits.
Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, GISDEC, says it will soon roll out a policy to formalize and regulate the scrap business in Ghana. Speaking after a working visit to B5 Plus company in Tema, the Chief Executive Officer, William Okufudate, said that this is part of efforts to sanitize the sector and support the growth of the local iron and steel industry.
The assessment done on the exposure in
the policy, according to the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Corporation, GISDEC, is expected to bring structure to the largely informal scrap trade, improve traceability of scrap materials, and curb activities that pose risks to critical national infrastructure.
And one has to do with the scrap business in the country. We just wanted to formalize the business of scrap dealing. It's a whole big industry, but it looks like nobody takes care of it, and then it's just a business anybody from anywhere can come in and start doing. Even the smelters, those who buy our scrap, they only wait for anybody at all to bring in the material.
The chief executive of GISDEC noted that the corporation will continue to engage key stakeholders, including scrap dealers and industry players, to ensure the smooth and inclusive implementation of the policy.
As to where they get it from, nobody cares. And then sometimes we realize there were a bit of nuisance with the business. For example, people go around removing these drain covers. People are taking scrap materials from people's compound without their notice, and a whole lot of valuables were getting mixed in this scrap business. So there were this cry out there that who is taking care of this sector. So as a corporation responsible for iron and steel industry, we set out to see how we can formalize this whole business. So we develop a policy, and then with the help of our minister, now we have a ministerial assent, or if you call it a fiat, to implement a policy to regulate and also to formalize the whole of the scrap industry.
GISDEC believes the initiative will play a critical role in positioning the scrap business as a strategic component of Ghana's industrialization drive.
And you're watching The Marketplace. We're taking a short break. When we come back, we have show business. We are talking geopolitics and creativity. Don't go anywhere. Well, it's Friday. Let's lighten up a bit, shall we? Well, today on show business, we delve into the intricate relationship between global geopolitics and Africa's creative industry. This comes as the U.S. suspends processing for immigration visas from 75 countries indefinitely, potentially including Ghana. Joining us, Kenneth Auchidako, culture journalist, also creative economy analyst to help us unpack these complex dynamics. Good to have you in studio. First segment for the year.
Yes, Happy New Year officially.
Happy New Year to you too. So I saw the topic, I was thinking, visa policies and creatives, what's the connection? How do the recent changes by the US affect African creatives?
You notice that Ghana, since time immemorial, has been a very huge export when it comes to the cultural space, arts, tradition, amongst other things. These are some of the things that are very unique touch points to the people. And so foreigners find that very intriguing when they are really tired of all they are seeing and they begin to see some of these exciting things that are coming from Africa and West Africa as well. They are very excited about these things. That is why it's very concerning that around this period where some of these visa processing pauses have been instituted, it's supposed to be something that artists and creatives in the space should be concerned about, because it sort of could stifle the export of some of these experiences that Ghana prides itself with. And so it is something that we need to be concerned about as a creative space in this part of the world.
And we have to make clear, we are talking about immigrant visas here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so my next question would be, in what ways do short-term visas help mitigate the challenges that African creatives face?
So if we look at the nature of this U.S. pause that has been instituted, we know that the Ghana's ambassador to the U.S. has intimated that it is going to affect only long-term immigration applications. That is what's going to be affected, which is also quite problematic, because what really is long-term? How long is long-term? Because if you look at the nature of exports from Ghana in terms of the creative industry, we know that, for instance, an artist or a musician can go outside to go and perform. That is and we know that's a short-term process. The person can be out there for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depending on how long the tour is going to be. But there are other issues in terms of residencies. For instance, in the fine art space, that people go out there to be hosted for at least a year or two to be able to create the art, because art is in it. You cannot really tell when the person will be done creating or going through the creative process. So some of those issues of longer-term stays are within a very blurry line when it comes to the period, whether it's going to be short or long. That is why it's important that we have these conversations. And so the opening or the window of the short-term stay or visiting stays could also help those that are going in there just to have minimal collaborations within a period and then come back home. Those areas are actually catered for. But we need to look at how long is long term.
So we need to point out these decisions are fluid. One day it's immigrant visas, the next day short-term visas. You may never know under this Trump administration. So how can African creators adapt to these changing geopolitics?
This means that Africans and the creative space on the continent should really now look inward when it comes to the creation of their arts and how much they circulate them in the African ecosystem. We now do not have to always look at physically being outside the continent to be able to, ply our trade. We can be in here, and with the influx of technology and what it can do, we know what AI is doing these days. We know what some of these new technologies are bringing, and you are able to be anywhere literally and collaborate with anyone on any part of the world. And so it makes it quite easier to navigate that kind of impediment that is being placed right now. So maybe artists and creative experts would now have to look inward, be very authentic in the creation that they make, so that you do not need to physically be anywhere to have eyeballs come onto the product that you're offering as a creative person.
Well, despite the challenges, opportunities do exist, don't they?
They do exist. There are so many opportunities that this presents as well, because I mentioned the fact that technology is evolving. There are people on the African continent that are creating technologies that project works from our side of things in a very genuine and productive way. And so these are all opportunities to strengthen local industries. Strengthen those local industries are one way to do that. We can also grow some of these Pan-African markets that we already exist. We've seen the Beyond the Return is still going on. 30 December also just went by. We saw the influx of people that came into the country and how much they benefited from the creative market. So we can tap into that as well. And finally, maybe push for a more creative, self-reliant population. We do not always have to look out there for some of these opportunities. We create them right here, and we should just look around us.
I'm happy you mentioned create them right here, because we tend to look to the West. But in Africa, I think there's also a good opportunity to explore the creative industry.
Exactly. We have a very huge market here that largely we are not taking advantage of, especially because there's always something, we are always seeing one thing or the other from the Western side. And so it makes it very difficult for us to look within and look at some of the uniqueness that we have. We were having a conversation about artificial intelligence the other day and the opportunities to create. This is one way that we can explore the nuances that our culture presents and makes us special to the world as at large.
Is there a role in there for the government as well?
There is a role. I mean, the fact that the U.S. ambassador to Ghana, or Ghana's ambassador to the U.S. has already mentioned that, or clarified that it is not applicable to short-term stays. That already indicates that there is some movement within the government machinery as far as this pause of, processing of immigrant visas are concerned. And so we just have to wait and see how far that consultation and collaboration is going to go to be able to make sure that creative within the system are not left behind as far as some of these regulations and policies are concerned.
And I know quite a number of African creatives who like to ply their trade outside of the country.
Exactly.
There, and it resonates. Well, before we go, because it's our first segment for the year, what are you predicting for our show business industry this year? And where do people make money? Where do you think the money will be going?
This year, I think money will be going more into creative technology. Okay. Because that is the pathway that has been created. Last year, we saw a rise, a very astronomical rise in terms of focus of investors in those areas. We saw many African creatives come up with very innovative technological ideas that bridge the gap between, for instance, the finance and the creative sector, which is something that has not been looked at for a very long time. But because of exposure to some of these technologies, these new ways of doing things, and of course, the ability to travel and experience what others are doing, people are able to now pick some of the issues that they think can apply to Africa, and then when they come here, they are able to develop ways, contextualize it to make sure that people in this space are also taking advantage of it. So I'm just seeing that there will be a lot more of that going into the rest of 2026.
Well, I know what I'll be doing this year. I'll be following you more often because you always know how to figure out where the money is. And so, yes.
We're trying our best.
Thanks for passing through. Ken Ochidako.
You're welcome, Daryl.
Creative economy analyst, also culture journalist at myjoyonline.com. And that's the marketplace. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Head there for the day's latest. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend. I'm following the Money Man.